Hello, everyone. I am Dia Walker, and I am a natural foot and ankle correction specialist. Some of you know me from Big Shoe Online TV. Some of you might be just introduced to my work right now. And so let me just kind of tell you a little bit about myself. I am a licensed physical therapist. I've been a licensed physical therapist for over 20 years. And I have a advanced certification in what we call manual physical therapy. So I work a lot with my hands and then other tools to function to release connective tissue. And about 10 years ago, I started teaching to professionals, and I taught a balance enhancement and fall prevention class and realized the importance of the foot and ankle and kind of became passionate about the foot and ankle at that time and really began to specialize in that particular area for the last 5 years in particular. So what this class is going to be doing is I'm going to be previewing a masterclass that I'm giving tonight on the rear foot and the lower leg. And this area of the foot is of particular importance to individuals who have diagnoses including flat feet, Achilles Tendonitis, heel spurs, plantar fasciitis, posterior tibialis dysfunction syndrome, and also flat feet, and a certain kind of bunion called a walking bunion in particular. Ankle sprains, there's another one. So this masterclass is going to cover or be appropriate for a lot of people across the board. And for those of you, again, who aren't familiar with my videos and my work, I decided to kind of offer you a preview of what I do with students in a masterclass so you can get a sense. So what I want to offer you is the ability to ask any questions that you have via chat or via the comments in YouTube, because right now we're on YouTube Live as well. And I'll be sure to be able to answer them at the completion of the demonstration, etc. So in order to kind of prep you for this, I wanted to kind of talk about two things that are really important to my work, and they're both behind me, okay? So the first is, you get the screen, it's on the other side. The first is the foot freedom formula, okay? And the foot freedom formula consists of the 3 R's, and they are release, realign, and reinforce. Now, the common treatment for a lot of people with foot problems are orthotics, and that addresses realignment, but it does not address release of connective tissues and reinforcement. And here's where I have a little bit of trouble with that. Because if the foot is not malleable and cannot move in all the directions that it needs to, then realignment is sometimes a bit of a waste of time. Now, don't get me wrong, a lot of people benefit from orthotic intervention, so I don't poo-poo it. However, I really think it's important to allow the structures of the foot, and there are so many joints in our foot. This is Fred the foot. And just from here to the tip of the toes, there are 33 joints. So there are over 50 joints in the foot and ankle. And all of those 50 joints need to move in every direction because we don't walk or function like robots, guys. We need to work in a multi-directional planes of movement because that's what we need for agility and walking and sports and all of the things that we love to do. And that's where we run into trouble because a lot of us don't have that mobility. So the first step is release. And I'm going to go ahead and do a demonstration using one release tool that I teach all the time in my classes. And if you register for tonight's class, you will get a video right away with this instruction, as well as a downloadable PDF so that you can prepare for tonight's class and be ready to start doing treatment when we do it. It is a technique called the comprehensive core release technique. And the comprehensive core release technique is a technique that releases connective tissue in about 10 seconds. It involves movement, so you are in control. And also you can do this on yourself, provided that you can do the following. If you can see your feet, if you can touch your feet, if you can move your feet, and if you can experience the sensation of pain or discomfort. Because the thing about the comprehensive core is that it can be and will be, for most of you, because you haven't had this work done on your foot, exquisitely tender and painful. But you're in control. It takes 10 seconds. If it's too much, you go ahead and back off a little bit on your force. It's as simple as that. So for us to do this particular activity, we're going to release one of the structures that's going to be done in tonight's class, very briefly. It is called the navicular. And the navicular is of particular importance to the following diagnoses: flat feet and posterior tibial tendonitis or posterior tibial tendon dysfunction. And the reason being is that that posterior tibialis tendon goes right underneath the navicular bone, and it attaches into the underside of the navicular, as well as some structures a little bit closer to the toes. So in order to go ahead and do this effectively, or the best way, is for you to sit high up in a chair. So I'm actually on a high stool right now, and you might want to put pillows underneath your bottom so that the height of your hips is higher as you can get above your knees. So you'll have better range of motion in your hips. It's not that you can't do this otherwise, you can, it's just this is the best position. So I'm going to go ahead and switch cameras, and we'll get set up to go ahead and do that. So get into position, and lastly, before I leave, you can do this with your finger, but if you happen to have a pencil with an full eraser head or a regular eraser, go ahead and grab that as well, because it'll be easier for you to see with me using one of these two items. So that's going to be how I demonstrate it. However, again, you can do these with your finger. So we're going to go ahead and switch cameras and get started. Okay, so we are now looking at my foot. And to find the navicular bone, you go to the inside ankle bone. And what you do is you take a diagonal finger and you're going to hit a bump, okay? And it is in line with this joint right here, which is called the metatarsal phalangeal joint of the first ray. And this is where, if you have a bunion, this will be where the bunion is. And again, if I didn't mention, this class is important for walking bunions as well. And if you don't know what walking bunions are, then ask a question in the comments. Okay, so it is about at the height of the arch. And right on this bone is just a good point to start. Because what I can do is I can test, okay, does this navicular bone go down? Look at all the wrinkles, okay? If wrinkles are good when it comes to release, okay? So if I'm gonna have good, I want to see, do I have good wrinkles? And I do. Now, that's going in the downward position, okay? Then I can also spring it in the upward position. And this is a little awkward because I'm doing it with my left hand on a weird angle. But I'm going to go ahead and spring it up, and I still get some movement and some wrinkles. So this is also a good thing. Now, if you're doing this with me, you might notice that this is very tender when you're pressing in either direction. That is good, okay? Because that means if it's tender or painful, it means that it is restricted and it needs to be moved. So we're going to do the comprehensive core release technique. And what we're going to do is we're going to do a very simple version. Again, I'll get into more details tonight during the master class. But we can take our releasing tool, and the larger the tool, the less specific, but also the less tender or sensitive. So for me, I found a little bit of pain or tenderness right above that bone or that bump, which is still part of the navicular. And what I will do is I will place my releasing tool on that point, and I will press in with about 80% force, and that hurts. So let's just stop right there. The next step is going to be to go around my imaginary clock and try to make it hurt more. Isn't this crazy? Again, I'm taking this off and stopping because it is so exquisitely tender. I don't want you to have to go through this, okay? So we depress 80%, we go around our imaginary clock, we find the area that's most tender. Then the next thing we're gonna do is we create stability. So I can just take my other hand and place it on a diagonal, okay, a diagonal position across my heel, okay, and go ahead and depress with about 30% force as I go ahead and move those fingers away or toward the toes, or depress and pull toward my body. Now, the reason for this is we want to make this area that we made more sensitive, less sensitive. So by stabilizing, that is what we're going to do. So I'm going to take a pause because there's a question. So what is the question? Oh, you don't have a question? 5 more minutes. Okay, yeah. Great. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and depress in. We're going to go around our imaginary clock. We're going to find the direction. We're going to depress in with our hands. We're going to move away from the body or toward. Away for me feels better. And then we just move our foot. We can move our toes. We can move our foot up and down 10 times, or I can raise my knee up and down 10 times. And that's it. That is the comprehensive core release. And what you can do then is retest. So you can do this release technique anywhere on the navicular bone. So where is the navicular bone? That is part of it, okay? That is where we were, right here on the green spot. It goes underneath in line with the first toe and the second toe, okay? And on top, it comes across the top of the foot, okay? All the way to in between the second and third toes. So what you can do is you can go ahead and feel with your releasing tool for tenderness at any one of these points, and then do the comprehensive core release technique to go ahead and release it. The next part of the foot freedom formula is called realignment. And once we've released something, we want to put it in the proper position. So with a person who has a high arch like myself, I needed to push my navicular down, but somebody who has a flat foot or a pronated foot, they're going to want to tape, realign. They're going to want to release in all directions, but they're going to want to realign either downward or upward. So if you have a pronated foot, it's going to be upward. If you have a high arch, it's going to be downward. I have a high arch. So what I'm going to do is I take a piece of tape. You can use any kind of tape. And make it about 3 to 4 inches long. If it's stretchable, make it about 3. And if it's not, make it 4. Then what we'll do is we're just going to rip the top of the tape and go ahead and place it, okay? Remember, the navicular goes all the way up to in front of the ankle bone. So we could want to go ahead and bring the entire part of it down. So I'm going to start right here. I'm going to pull it in that downward position, and I'm going to bias my foot in a downward position, which is eversion. So I'm going to try to lift my pinky toe up, and then I'm going to pull this tape over that bone. And as soon as I get to in line with the bottom of my foot, of my arch, I'm just going to lay the tape. And that is your realignment. Let's go ahead and go back to the first camera for me. So I will be free to answer any questions that you have on this right now. And if there are no questions, then I'll just speak about this a little bit further. So again, you can see that we follow 3 distinct steps to go ahead and address the structures that are causing or contributing to your pain, your disease, your dysfunction, in order to create the proper alignment. And the reason being is that alignment dictates function, frequency, and flow. And there is something called the length tension ratio. And that states that a muscle will contract with greatest strength when it's at a particular length. If it's too long or too short, it's not going to work properly. For frequency and flow, you're going to have to ask me about why the alignment dictates those two things, because I'm running out of time and I have another meeting coming up. So thank you so much for joining me. If you want to register for the masterclass, the registration information is going to be either sent to you or provided to you in a number of different ways. If you're on YouTube, okay, you're watching YouTube live or you're watching the video, there is a place to link to register on the community link. So if you have the community link, you go ahead and click that, or when you see the community link, you click that and it will be in there. It will also be in the description box of this YouTube video, as well as being sent out to individuals to go ahead and register. So I hope you guys can join me tonight. It's going to be an amazing 2-hour class with a ton of information that is going to allow you to decrease your pain, take control of your health and your well-being, and be a contributing part of your healthcare team, as well as get you back to the activities that you love with the people that you love, and ultimately help you to avoid medications for pain, costly orthotic intervention that might not really fix your problem, as well as the potential for avoiding surgery. So please take advantage of this opportunity, and I hope to see you all on tonight's masterclass, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Ciao.